Welcome to Memphis Light Gas and Water's Power Pivot. And thank you so very much for taking time out of your schedule today to be with us. This small business platform has covered several topics from business grants, a new normal in the pandemic, marketing, finance, legal issues, and a host of other pertinent small business subjects. In honor of Women History Month, today we will address the transitioning, pivoting, and moving beyond the pandemic for women who own businesses. Thank you for being with us today as we welcome three outstanding women who own businesses. We are celebrating the resilience and innovation of women who own businesses and their success during this pandemic. Those of you who are Zooming with us today, please put your questions in the Q&A section. Those who are on Facebook, please put your questions in the comments section. Our first guest today is Hughetta Dudley. She is the president and CEO of Stragistics. I'm sorry. She's the president and CEO of Stragistics Technology Incorporated, headquartered in Memphis, and she has a regional Mid-Atlantic office in Columbia, Maryland. Our next guest is Kelly Dobbins. Kelly is the president of MidSouth Drug Testing. And our next guest is Fabiola Francis, and she owns Simply Fabulous Catering. Before talking with our guests, I'd like to provide a little information about women-owned businesses. Women-owned businesses continue to fuel the economy. These businesses represent 42% of all businesses, which is nearly 13 million businesses, and they employ 9.4 million workers. They generate $1.9 trillion in revenue. That's trillion. According to the annual State of Women-Owned Businesses report, in 2019, U.S. women with diverse ethnic and geographic backgrounds started an average of 1,817 new businesses per day in the United States between 2018 and 2019, which is down slightly from the record-setting 2018 number of 1,821 new businesses that were started. The annual report, based on U.S. Census Bureau data, found that women-owned businesses continue to trend above all businesses. Over the past 5 years, the number of women-owned businesses increased 21%, while all other businesses increased only 9%. The total employment by women-owned businesses rose 8%, while all other businesses, the increase was far lower at 1.8%. Total revenue for women-owned businesses also rose slightly above all businesses. The increase was 21% compared to 20% for all other businesses. Today, our guests will offer some great insight on how women-owned businesses are sustaining and pivoting during this past year-long pandemic. We're going to start with who could you please pronounce your name? Because I don't want to mispronounce it again. Who?
It's pronounced Hughetta.
Hughetta. I'm so sorry. Please.
No problem.
So Hughetta. So I got it. Okay, Hughetta. Please tell us about yourself and your business. What do you do?
Well, my name is Hughetta Dudley, and our company is Stragistics Technology.
Okay.
And we are an IT solutions provider, and we help our clients to come up with integrate the right people, the right strategy, and the right solutions for them to meet their business needs. And we do that by providing them with staff augmentation and fully forced IT solution teams to help them meet their business goals within a reasonable time and budget. typically our clients are looking for a partner that can understand their business needs and to help them get the right solution for their needs. We've been in business for 23 years, and
Wow.
21 of those years have been right here in Memphis, Tennessee, where we're headquartered. And like you said, we do have an additional office in Columbia, Maryland. We do business in Tennessee, Maryland, Kentucky, and Texas today, and our clients expand through the federal, state, and local government. And in the private industry, we're doing business primarily within the energy, education, healthcare, manufacturing, and telecommunication area. The pandemic for us, it hit very hard, but I must first say, I would be remiss if I didn't say this. My hat goes off to my team. I believe I have a very awesome team. As we were all impacted by the pandemic, they went the extra mile to make sure that we were able to stabilize throughout this process. And they offered great suggestions, and they did everything whenever requested to help us stay current in the environment that was ever moving and changing. Our focus has continued to be on communication, on safety, and sustainability. I would have to say that when the initial shutdown came about, a lot of our clients, like many organizations, were beginning to either cancel or postpone projects. We were starting out with a banner year, and every project that we were bidding on all went to canceled or postponed state for new business opportunities. But we kept striving throughout that process, and we didn't let it hold us down. We were fortunate, however, for our existing contracts, that we can proudly say that we had absolutely no layoffs. Everybody was able to stay employed. A lot of our staff work on client sites, and in that regard, a lot of them were able to go home and work remotely. We were able to stand up our internal office to go home maybe a week or so before the actual shutdown of the city. And for those employees that weren't able to work from home, that had to go on client sites, we did everything we could to make sure that they had the PPE equipment that they need so that they would be safe. And we made every effort to stay current on the guidelines that were given for the new normal for the pandemic and the impact of the shutdown. We worked really hard throughout that process, and then we turned to help our clients and see if there was anything we could do to help them throughout the pandemic. And we did everything that was asked of us to at least help them stay viable during the process. We also turned internally to look at, when you're working together in an environment, and then all of a sudden everybody goes to independent home spaces, a lot of communication gets lost. So we've been working very hard to improve our communications with our staff, keep everyone as informed as we can as new information comes out, so they can stay apprised of what's going on in the pandemic, making their own choices of how it will impact their family and their lives. And we work closely with our banking institution to try to take advantage of the SBA funding programs so that it would help us as we were still struggling through the pandemic.
So let me ask you about the SBA. Were you successful with working with them? Because initially there were a lot of small businesses that were not successful in getting in or meeting the deadline to receive assistance.
We were successful, but we had a great banking relationship, and our bank kept us informed. And I attended seminars 2 to 3 a day, 5 to 6 days a week, and collaborated with other colleagues to find out. We were exchanging information of what we were learning along the process, because it evolved. It was different from morning to evening. Mm-hmm. And so it was very difficult, but we were in the first wave. We made it in the first week.
So great. Thank you, Hughetta. Mm-hmm. I got it right that time.
You got it.
I got it. I'm going to just keep it right, Hughetta. Okay. Thank you so much. So now, Kelly, tell us about you and your company. and what you all have experienced during this last year.
Well, I'm Kelly Dobbins with MidSouth Drug Testing. We've been in business for 17 years. We do individual employment, federal, school, court drug testing. We drug test using urine, saliva, hair, DNA, breath alcohol. We currently do business in the whole state of Tennessee, Northeast Arkansas, Boot Hill, Missouri, and North Mississippi. Our clients are so diversified, from municipalities to warehousing to any type of company, pretty much drug tests. So we've been very fortunate in that regard. The pandemic was really kind of interesting for us because most of our customers are federally mandated to drug test. That means the federal government says you have to drug test so many people a year. And with that, January, February, March typically are pretty good months for us. So as our income went up, we didn't see the pandemic coming. And all of a sudden, when April, May, and June came around, our numbers went completely down. So
Kelly, before you go on, I do have a question. You say that the federal employees have to be tested. Does that mean, are they new employees, or do they do just random testing, whether they are new or not?
Well, the pre-employments go on because people hire, but of course during that time, no one was hiring. So the main type of testing that we needed to continue to do was the random testing, and of course the post-accident testing when people have an accident.
Okay.
So the random testing pretty much came to a halt for about 3 months. And I think what happened with most of my customers is they realized that the pandemic wasn't going to go away and they weren't going to get their numbers for the year if they didn't continue testing. So we started to see an increase. At the same time, a lot of people that were in the type of business that I'm in, some of them didn't make it. They went out of business. And for me, it was really a godsend. There was a company that had been in business for a long time and had been drug testing FedEx recruitment and the pilots and that whole area for many, many years, over 20 years. And they suddenly went out of business July 4th weekend. And I received a call. I'm on a national board for the drug and alcohol testing industry. And I got a phone call from a friend, and she said, FedEx, they just lost their vendor. Are you interested in being on call this weekend? Of course, I said, yes, of course. So I basically stepped into a contract with FedEx because this other company had gone out of business. So, as our numbers went up January, February, March, and they completely dropped to the bottom, April, May, and June, July 1, all of a sudden I'm faced with a wonderful problem of adding 5 more staff and then adding an additional 5 staff. So in a period of 3 months, I had doubled my staff to 21.
Okay, so Kelly, I got to ask you about this. The company that went out of business, what was the problem with them? If they had a Federal Express contract, which it should not have been at least 50% of their business, because that's really a problem when you have one company that provides that much income. So why do you think that company went out of business?
Well, their main claim to fame was insurance. They did the type of insurance where people come to your office and they take your blood and your weight. And at that time, no one was applying for insurance because no one was doing in-person interviews or anything like that. Unfortunately, I didn't realize that was the bulk of their business. I had done business with them in other cities when I was looking for a drug testing provider. So that their main source of revenue was not drug testing. Their main source of revenue was insurance, paramedic type work. So for me, the pandemic was full of a lot of different challenges. We had the challenge of getting the payroll protection program, that funding, and luckily my accountant was a great partner and he kept up on all that and kind of guided me through it and worked with the banks on that. And then the Small Business Administration, when the disaster loan became available, it was very easy to go onto their website and to fill out the information. So that took me through the fall when we were able to, actually bill FedEx for some of that and to get that ball rolling. So I've been very fortunate that I didn't have to lay anybody off, that I actually doubled my staff in the fall, and that we had the Small Business Administration and the PPP to help us through when we didn't know if we would make it or not. But our offices never closed. We went through a lot of training. We still have problems to this day getting gloves because we're not a hospital, even though we use gloves every day. We're a small business and we still struggle with that. But we've been very fortunate that, we are able to stay open and we've been able to get, what we need when we need it.
So based on the number of successes that you mentioned, what has been your major challenge during the pandemic?
I would say keeping up with what the Shelby County Health Department and what the CDC tells you. And there's so much misinformation of trying to keep us healthy and safe, but also being able to get mask in the beginning, hand sanitizer, gloves, just being able to get the stuff that we need to do our job every day. It's been a tremendous challenge. Even now, I'm still having problems getting gloves.
Okay, so resources has been a major challenge for you.
Absolutely.
Okay, so thank you for sharing that with us. So now we'll go to Fabiola, and please,
Hello.
excuse me.
Hello.
Hi, okay, so tell us about yourself and your business. How you've
Okay.
been pivoting during this pandemic year.
Well, you can say that we learned to be resilient in this pandemic, and kind of reinvent ourselves. So I've owned Simply Fabulous Catering since 1999. And we provide Memphis with a variety of foods, a lot of ethnic different foods and southern foods as well. You gotta have meat and potatoes in Memphis, and barbecue. But I think our major challenge has been, of course, being a caterer. We lost a lot of business, a lot of weddings, a lot of meetings, office meetings that you have with different corporations. So it was very challenging at first. And we also have had a deli at the First Tennessee building, which was downtown. So I had two losses. I had my deli that was closed actually on the 18th of March. It'll be a year. And then we have the catering, which was also closed because nobody, everybody was scared and nobody was having meetings. And as far as the challenges getting money, I think there's a lot of paperwork with the PPP. There was a lot of paperwork that you need to do when you're self-employed and you do everything yourself. It's hard to come up with the payroll and everything that they want you to do. Although I do have an accountant, and the bank was a great partner. I had a fabulous partner with the bank that helped me expedite everything they needed to get the PPP, because I wanted to get that for my employees. I had 7 employees at the time, and I wanted to keep at least half of them because they've been with me over 10 years. And that was a concern. Losing them was a concern, and keeping them healthy and safe was also a concern. And the other challenge, I think, is taking you serious. I think as a woman, it's harder to be taken seriously when you have a need or a question to somebody. They hesitate, especially if you also have an accent. So not only you are a woman, and you are a woman that you can tell that is not from this country, although I've been here for many years. So that was a double challenge.
Well,
But
let
on
me
the
ask you this, Fabiola. Let me ask you this. You said some of the challenges were being received well as a woman. So were some of the people not receiving you well? Were they men and women, or just men?
I think is the fact that because we have a social structure, that is, you deal with a lot of men, and
Uh-huh.
I think I will say that they do not, they are not aware that they're not taking you serious. Most people are not aware that they're not taking you serious. They ask you questions that maybe they wouldn't ask a male partner,
Uh-huh.
if they were there. So, but that is just a bit. I think it's a challenge that all women have that go to work. But
Yeah.
on the upside, we have to kind of reinvent ourselves. On the upside, you learn to be resilient and try to find ways to bring customers back in, to say, hey, we open now based on what the health department tells you. One day you shut down, one day you open, one day you gotta close at 9 o'clock, one day they tell you you can, whatever. So it is confusing. But
So
never.
where are you now? Where are you now? Is your deli open? Is your other business open? Where are you today? A year later, actually a year later, because you said your deli closed a year ago. So
Exactly.
okay,
So we are I have my catering is right here in North Memphis. I am on Jackson and Watkins, and I opened the other side of my catering to provide to replace the deli because
okay.
the contract was not renewed, and they don't have enough people there at the downtown. So instead of you just kind of cry a little after 10 years there, but then we opened here. So I'm here in the Midtown area.
Okay, so you said there are not enough people downtown. Do you mean like because people are telecommuting?
Yes, actually, the bank has 23 floors and half of them are empty. They're only at 20% capacity right now. And
Oh,
then the lease was not renewed. So, having done that, then I decided to invest some of that money that I was able to get through PPP and a grant as well
mhm.
from Edge Grant, and I was able to invest that into a drive-through window and provide curbside pickup for our customers. So not
So
only
you
are we doing catering, but doing the curbside pickup for our customers.
so in addition to the PPP, you were able to also take advantage of the program that Edge had available for small businesses.
Correct. I was one of the fortunate ones that had that are qualified for a grant, meaning that I don't have to pay it back. So that's a very refreshing. And also the city of Memphis with the CARES Act, I was able also to qualify and give a lot of paperwork. If I have to say that is the most deterrent thing for small businesses is
So
the
did you do your
amount of
paperwork?
paperwork. Mhm.
Okay, so did you do your own paperwork or did you hire someone to do the
Well, I
paperwork?
have my accountant do it
Okay.
with me. Yes, so thank God for accountants.
Okay, well, great, great. I'm glad that you are bouncing back and hoping that you will be even more successful. So Hughetta, we'll go back to you. So you have two businesses. You have locations. You have Memphis, and then you have the Columbia and Maryland. So tell me, are there any differences in how the businesses are operating because of the pandemic? Are there major differences because of the different cities? You're on mute, Hughetta.
I just realized the challenge is basically the same, regardless. It's just trying to get funding. Some areas progress faster than other areas progress as far as, the number of cases and how they handle it. And it's just staying aware. And for us, we're just fortunate because the majority of our people work remotely. So the impact to the business and the staff is minimal.
Okay, great. That's good to know. People are so negative sometimes about Memphis. I love Memphis. So it's good to know that the pandemic it doesn't matter about location. The pandemic has just been very difficult for most people. So Kelly, let's move to you. Have you seen any differences in the business that you have, even though you seem to be doing pretty well, except for being able to get the resources that you need for your staff? Have you seen any differences being a woman-owned business versus some of your male counterparts?
Not really. I think in the beginning there was a lot of difference, but now I think across the board, most small businesses have suffered. Some of us have been able to pick up more business, and some of us have been fortunate to have partners to help us with paperwork to get loans and grants. But every other business owner I talk to, male or female, seems to have gone through pretty much the same thing. And if they're still around now, they've been thankful something has given on their end as well.
Okay. So I'm looking in the chat to see, do we have any questions for our guests today?
The only one, someone wants to know if it'll be recorded.
And it is recorded, and it'll be, yeah, we'll have it on Facebook, on our MLGW Facebook page. Okay, so we are coming to a close to our program. So Hughetta, we'll start with you. Could you please share with our guests, our small businesses, individuals who do business, give them some tips on how to continue pivoting during the pandemic?
I think some of the important things is to stay aware of the environment and what's going on, because the changes are so quick and it's so volatile. Work within a network of people. Don't try to work in a vacuum. That I found to be very beneficial, because when you work with like minds, other entrepreneurs, they tend to share. When you start sharing your challenges, we end up actually helping one another better than what we could do on our own.
Thank you
And then
so
watch for the funding as it comes available.
Exactly, and not only to watch for it, make sure you meet the deadlines and get all the paperwork in. We had some bankers on, some others dealing with the PPE a few months ago, and they talked about how the critical need to get the paperwork in before the deadline in the event that some things may not be accurate. And so it's real important to, number one, keep up with the deadlines. Number two, get the work in early. So next we will move to Kelly. What tips or advice do you recommend for small businesses moving forward?
I agree with you, Etta. I think that having your network really, really helps, because even with just things within the pandemic, health directives, and, if someone in your office gets sick, are they supposed to be off 7 days? Are they supposed to be off 14 days? How long do they quarantine? Can we get payroll help for when they are quarantined? There's been so many changes, just trying to stay on top of everything. It's very helpful to have other people in business that you can rely on to ask. But I do think staying aware. I mean, I probably watch the news and listen to more information than I ever have, because it does change all the time. I mean, we don't really have all the answers, and I don't think we will for a while.
Okay, and so one of your sayings, Kelly, what is one of your sayings that you say, or that you believe in, that you want to pass on?
One of my personal sayings?
Yeah, like say, for example, Hughetta is, there have been many changes in my businesses, two moves, okay, what is this saying? Okay.
Says that
in business and life, you must persevere in the face of adversity, find strength in moments of brokenness, and humility when you are most sure you are right. Correct?
That's correct. That is correct.
And Hughetta, what was yours?
I think mine was along the lines of that you have to believe in yourself, because others may not believe in you, but you have to believe in yourself.
Okay. And so, Fabiola, give us some tips for our small businesses before we depart.
Okay, well, I will say that always stay optimistic regardless of the circumstances, because having I lost 90% of my business, but I thought, well, I love what I'm doing. I mean, I couldn't see myself doing anything else. So anybody in business that's feeling a challenge, just listen to your heart, and your heart will tell you, to follow your dream and don't give up. Don't give up too easy. So I will say reinvent yourself. Just reinvent, adapt, and reinvent. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so do you have a favorite quote that you'd like to leave with us, Fabiola?
Sí, en los negocios tienes dos opciones. Puedes darte por vencido o puedes reinventarte. Meaning, in business, you have two choices, really. You can either give up or you can reinvent yourself. And I chose the latter, to reinvent myself. Mm-hmm.
And you are doing extremely well, because you did that.
Thank you. Thank you for having us. Thank you so much.
So do we have any other questions in the chat or the Q&A before we depart?
Don't see any, Gail.
You don't see any? Okay. So I want to thank our guest today. That's Hughetta Dudley, who's the president and CEO of Stragistics Technology, Inc. Fabiola Francis, who is the owner of Simply Fabulous Catering, and Kelly Dobbins, who is the president of MidSouth Drug Testing. And I want to thank all of the MLGW employees who have worked to make sure today's program has been a success, and that would be Kim Wilson-Bond, Nathan Smith, Darren Sharp, Sharita Goodman, Terica Lamb, Erica Horton. Did I miss anybody? If I did, charge it to my head, not to my heart. And I want to thank each of you young ladies for sharing your experiences and your tips to help others and hopefully being successful as we continue with this pandemic that we hope that will be over this year.
We will.
Yeah. Hope so.
All right. Thank you so much. Good evening.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you.